Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jason Cozens. He's the CEO and founder of Glint Pay. We're going to talk today about Glint, of course, but also about the opportunity to own a piece of Glint. Jason's going to talk about the crowdfunding that has been ongoing in the UK and should be starting soon in the US. I like to tell the viewers that this is a special kind of video that I usually don't do. It's a sponsored video sponsored by Glint. So I'll just put that out there. I also like to tell the public and the viewers that I actually invested in the crowdfunding here in the UK yesterday in Glint. I think it's a good opportunity, but crowdfunding is not as clear-cut as investing in a public company. I'm sure Jason is going to talk about that. We also wanted to talk about inflation, which is appropriate because today we had CPI data in the US come out. CPI, of course, is a measure of prices. A lot of people call it inflation. But in my book, the inflation has been created. It's already baked in the cake. It's just that it's flowing now into things like commodities, tangible goods, and this is what people always associate inflation with, because in the 70s, the stock market didn't go anywhere, but we had a lot of rising prices. So Jason, welcome to the channel.
Don't you think they should change the name of inflation to devaluation? Because it's the bananas haven't got any bigger, and the gasoline hasn't got any better, has it? And the houses haven't got any bigger on the inside than they are on the out, and yet they call it inflation. But really, it's just the depreciating purchasing power of money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the inflation of the money supply. That's how the classical economists 50, 100 years ago used to define it. You inflate the currency out of thin air. You create currency not convertible into real money, and that it's just a simple law of supply and demand. Like you said, houses are still pretty much the same. Cars are the same. Of course, they use tricks like hedonics and substitution. We're seeing a lot of shrinkflation as well, where the packaging goes down, but the price stays the same.
I think one of the other things about inflation that we've got to think about is the effect it's having on society, Mario. Inflation affects people differently depending where you are in society. I mean, how does inflation? Let's remind ourselves how inflation might happen. Certainly a big effect from quantitative easing, or money printing, as I'd like to call it. That money doesn't go to everybody generally. I mean, during COVID, of course, we did have some helicopter money, put into the hands directly of people. But generally speaking, that's not how it happens. It goes to the central banks. It comes from the central banks. It goes to the banks. And who do the banks give money to? They do not give it to everybody. They certainly don't give it to people who need it. They tend to give it to people who don't need it. They give it to people who already have money. And I feel very fortunate myself. I've got a bit of money. I've worked hard all my life, and there's nothing wrong with that. And entrepreneurs and people who've built up wealth over their lifetime should also be able to protect that money from the destructive effects of inflation. But what about the fact that I can go and borrow a lot of money if I've got a deposit? I can go and borrow a lot of money for free at the moment, nearly. I mean, negative interest rates, real interest rates, very low interest rates. And but what about those people who don't have that deposit? It means that money isn't available to them, and huge swathes of the population do not have access to the proceeds of that quantitative easing. It goes to the people with money, not without. And you have generations now of people worried about, or thinking, or just actually not even worried about it, totally just given up on the idea of holding real assets, of holding a home, of owning a home. I just think it's just shocking. It's terrible. It's not the right place for society. We had, our parents' generations and grandparents always thought they'd be able to buy a house, whereas my children, don't think that they'll be able to own a home, or if they do, that it's going to be very difficult for them to do. How are they going to know if they're going to save up the deposit that it's required to buy a house? It'll take them 10 years, and by the time it's got to 10 years, it won't be enough for the deposit anymore. Meanwhile, the haves, and I do count myself lucky enough to be in the haves, they're able to take this money, borrow it at the point of origination, and buy these assets very quickly, and of course are not affected by inflation so much, because they've got this appreciating asset, whether it's they're buying gold, or whether they're buying housing, or whether they're buying the stock market. They're able to kind of, in a way, insulate themselves. And in a way, for many, life's not ever been so good, is it? I can borrow money for free. I can buy these properties. I can use the excess money I've got to buy the stock market, to buy gold. I think there's some real problems that, we've all got to ask ourselves, what is the solution to that? And I worry, for instance, that people will blame capitalism for this. I worry that they will say, well, capitalism isn't working, so we've got to stop that. We've got to think of something new. Well, it isn't that capitalism isn't working. It's the fuel on which it runs. The money is the thing that's corrupt. And of course, that distorts everything. There's nothing wrong with working hard and earning money and building up your wealth, the old-fashioned way. Unfortunately, since 1970, we came off the gold standard. That's all become distorted, and it's creating moral hazards within society. It's creating a situation where people lust after, I think, materialistic things and wealth that are out of their grasp. And I do worry about the future of my children. But we've got to act now. And the great thing is with Glint is that we're giving you something to deal with that now. You're prepared by listening to Mario. You're prepared for what's coming. And now you've got some tools. And I'd like to think that Glint is one of them to help you navigate this future.
Yeah, and I think what you just described there is just the hollowing out of the middle class, and we're becoming more and more like where I grew up in Brazil, like a third world country, where you have very small middle class, and you have a few that have everything, and the majority that don't have anything. Yeah. And I think it's all because of the monetary system. It's we need sound money, and Glint will be, in my opinion, a part of that movement towards it, even if the powers that be want to continue this system. At least you have an option to be on the lifeboat, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's not right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. It logically is not right. That, I think the statistic a few years ago was that two individuals in the USA owned more than the bottom 50% of people in the US. How can that be? And now it's probably 5. You know who I'm talking about, and that's just plain wrong. But yeah, we've got a solution. It's your own personal gold standard. It's a way for you to have this sound money, be able to put gold in your pocket, in your hand, be able to use it the way it's supposed to be. I mean, talking about the crowdfunding, we go through some due diligence with these platforms, obviously, and they want us to give evidence on everything that we're saying on the campaign page, which we'll talk about in a bit. But one of the statements, of course, is that I say, in my lifetime, the pound and the dollar have lost more than 85% of their purchasing power. And probably the guys at Cedars and Republic, the crowdfunding platforms, probably listen to that and think that can't be true. The guy's got to give some evidence for that. So we obviously sent over the evidence, but whilst we were doing it, Mario, actually, you're in this business, and it's we're talking about it every day, but sometimes, it still shocks me when I see the statistics. I mean, I was looking at numbers, and the Australian dollar's lost 91% of its purchasing power in my lifetime. Obviously there are other currencies which have become nearly totally worthless, like 99.99% devaluation of the Brazilian real. But and of course, you were saying to me the other day that of course some currencies have come and gone in that time. But I mean, 85% decreasing in purchasing power. And this is the interesting thing: is this inflation is beginning not with a background of deflation behind us. It's coming on top of already rampant inflation. I mean, 4.2%. I mean, and of course, Bank of America are saying that it's a transitory hyperinflation. I mean, even having the word hyperinflation is worrying. isn't it? I mean, hyperinflation. I mean, can you imagine anyone thinking that we were saying that word? We would discussed it, but in the normal world, people talking about hyperinflation and trying to stick words on the front like transitory to try and calm us all down. It's like the fact they're even using that word now and not coming up with any fancy new ways of describing it really is telling, I think. And as you said, the CPI, they're designed not to tell us the truth about what's going on. We all feel the real inflation that's going on. All the young people out there in the world who I talk to have completely given up the idea of ever owning a house. I mean, you've got to take that into account. I mean, why is that not included in these measures that they talk about? I mean, I'm looking at some statistics now. I mean, bacon up 11%, bananas 3%, bread 11%, chicken 10%, coffee 8%, eggs 7%, gasoline 22%. I mean, the list goes on. And of course, there's probably some effect of supply chain effects of to do with COVID and ships getting stuck in canals and all that kind of stuff. But there's a macroeconomic situation here going on, which we all know about. You've talked about it a lot. You've got huge amounts of money printing going on at gigantic levels with words we didn't used to even use, like trillion. I've got trillions of dollars of money stimulus going into our economies. We're on it. It's like the governments are now addicted to it like crack. But also there are other things, longer term things that started in 1970, obviously as we came off the gold standard, things that are to do with where we've been sourcing our products from. The people, the middle class, the people in India and China don't want to build these microwaves and products, for very low wages anymore. There's a burgeoning middle class there. So effectively, we've exported our inflation for all of these years. It's coming home to roost. It's coming home to roost. On top of that, we've been printing money like there's no tomorrow because politicians don't want to deal with the issues right now. They'd rather kick the ball down the field and let someone else deal with it. And sorry, I'll stop there for a second. I mean, it's breathtaking, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of the reasons I'm so much concerned, and I've always been interested in the subject of inflation, fiat currency, and I try to inform the public, is that I grew up in Brazil, and in Brazil, I don't know what the real has devalued, at least probably 90%. It's only about 25 years old or 27 years old. But prior to that, since I was born, I think you've had at least 3 currencies that basically collapsed in Brazil. So it wouldn't be surprising that we get some kind of collapse of the dollar. And that would be worrying, because when it happens in Brazil or Argentina or Turkey or any other country, it's like it's on the fringes, and people can protect themselves with the dollar. But now if the dollar goes, it's a real problem. Jason, could we talk a little bit about Glint and tell the new viewers what Glint is all about, for those of you who haven't heard of Glint Pay?
Yeah, sure. So Glint is the first company in the world to enable physical gold, real gold that's allocated to you, that's stuck in a vault in Switzerland, it's insured, real gold, to be able to participate in electronic payments in real time. So with Glint and our app and our Glint MasterCard, you can buy gold for as little as 1 cent's worth or 1 penny's worth of gold. You can exchange that for other currencies if you're outside the USA. You can save that gold. You can spend it using the Glint MasterCard. Anywhere where MasterCard's accepted, you can just walk in and pay with your gold. The merchant won't have any idea that you're actually paying with gold, because our system translates it into the invoice, the currency of the merchant in real time. But you can also send it to each other. So I can send gold to you as easily as sending a text or an email. So it all started back in 2008 when I saw the run on the banks and the collapse of Lehman Brothers and banks here in the UK. And at the time, it was a real wake-up call to me that the bank isn't a risk-free deposit of funds. And at the same time, I learned about all this inflation and how currencies were devaluing so much over time. So I got onto thinking about why that was happening and what was the solution. There's got to be one. Of course, I learned about gold being the ultimate store of value. And over my lifetime, when all these currencies have become nearly worthless. Of course, gold's gone up 500% in its purchasing power, as we all know. And although the pearl price can go up and down against other currencies, of course, it generally does go up. So I decided that we'd try and do something about the fact that gold wasn't a very good medium of exchange, although it was a very good store of value. You can't exactly pop down to the local grocery store and buy your cornflakes with it. You can't chip off a bit of gold and do that very easily. So we set out to build, and we have now created a technology that enables physical gold to be used in payments. And that's now, we've rolled that out across the UK, across Europe, and into the USA. And our app actually is available in over 200 countries, but we just only issue the card to 37 countries. So yeah, we're super excited about it. But interestingly, when I was first starting this, up until maybe just a couple of years ago, people were saying to me, well, this product be great, but why don't you launch it in places where there's real inflation? And I'm going, well, there's inflation here. It's insidious, and it's eating away at your money. And gold's generally outstripping that inflation. And now, of course, Bank of America is making statements with the word hyperinflation in it. So I think we were right.
Just a few questions. The peer-to-peer, that's called Glint, right? Is it available in the US or?
Glint is available in over 200 countries, including the UK, and not at the moment in the USA in gold, but it is available with US dollars. So you can send US dollars from one person to another. But the gold side of it, we're just getting some additional regulatory permissions before we can enable the gold to be transferred from peer to peer. So just bear with us. It might take a number of months longer to be able to get that sorted. But we're doing things properly. We're working with the regulators. We don't want to fall foul of them.
And another question, some people ask about Brexit and how it's affected EU customers of Glint. Some people have commented that they can't open Glint accounts from the EU. Is that true? And will it change?
Yeah, that's right. So when Brexit happened, we paused our issuing of accounts into Europe. Are we still servicing our existing European clients? So we have we have about 80,000 registered users around the world, and a fair few of them in Europe. And we ceased issuing new accounts to new residents in Europe temporarily while we implement our Brexit plans. I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen with Brexit. We didn't see the point in spending the huge amount of money that and time and effort that goes into setting those plans in place, and unless we knew for certain that we wouldn't be able to issue accounts to Europeans after Brexit. So we've been working on those plans now for a few months, and I won't think it's much longer. Maybe another couple of months, and we'll be able to issue Glint accounts to new European clients, and we're very excited about getting around to doing that soon again.
Another question I have, because I get a lot of comments about whether one should have physical gold in their possession, and then I always tell people that yes, you have to hold it to own it, but with Glint, you do own it. You don't hold it yourself, but I think it's an option that a lot of people want to have as a convenience. I have had a Glint card here since 2018. I think that was, I got it in the summer of 2018. My preference is for physical gold and silver, but I have an open mind. So maybe you can tell the viewers why Glint, and how do you recommend people use it, in terms of savings or spending their gold, and the fact that they can also hold fiat currencies in the Glint app, right?
Yeah, sure. Look, there's no doubt at all you should all own some gold and have it on you. I mean, that's absolute. I totally agree with that philosophy. You should have some gold and you should have it with you, 100%. But what Glint does is enhance the effect, or the power of gold. What we say is, if gold is security, Glint is its key. We've given it unprecedented liquidity. Okay, so we're enabling you to have your own personal gold standard. because that gold that you have in your house at home, you can't use it. It's there for a rainy day. But why just use gold for a rainy day when you can actually just upgrade to what I would consider a much more superior currency, the one that doesn't depreciate over time. As one of our clients said, enables your ready money, the money that you need at hand at all times, to be in gold. So the world has been dying for an alternative currency that's out of control of governments, and by that I mean its nature cannot be changed by any human being, and that's what gold is. We can't change its nature, you can't, the governments can't change its nature, and that's why we love it so much, because we can rely on it to be that never-changing, ever-present store of value that's lasted for thousands of years and will into the future. And so Glint's technology now gives you another option, as you said, on top of that gold that you have at home. You can have gold. It's safe inside a vault, a very secure vault. They're called Brinks, are the custodian of that, and the Brinks are the vaulting partner. They're one of the biggest and most reliable precious metals vaulting company in the world. This is in Switzerland as well. So Switzerland has a fantastic reputation and love around gold. So we kind of trust the wider infrastructure around that, and governmental infrastructure around that. So it's very safe. It's not going to get stolen. If you have too much at home, then that might happen. I hope it doesn't. But our technology enables you to spend it. I mean, it's an amazing feeling, and we get this feedback as well from our customers all the time, paying for things with gold. And you should wait and see what happens when you tell people that you're doing that. By the way, I'm paying with gold. You realize it's great to see their faces. They love it. And of course, I'm loving it, because I know that the gold the ready money they have in my gold account with Glint is appreciating generally, although it can go down. It has done, at the beginning of this year, it corrected and it went down. But that's why we also give you choice, and that's why there is a fiat currency wallet inside your Glint account. So apart from your gold account in the US, you also have a US dollar account, and in the UK and Europe and elsewhere around the world, you have a US dollar, euro, and Great British pound account as well. So we're giving you this choice, the ability to move into fiat currencies, hold in fiat currencies, be able to move back into gold anytime you want, to save in gold, to maybe just save and not spend it, knowing that you can, though, if you want, or to, when it's going up, consistently to spend it, feeling good about the fact that, your purchasing power has been increasing every week. There's certainly times when it does that. It certainly did for a good 12 months, on the run up to during the beginning of the pandemic.
Jason, recently we've heard stories, especially in the silver market, that the LBMA, for example, has been overstating the amount of silver they have, and that, for example, Brinks is a part of the LBMA, but in the pre-interview, you told me that, yes, there's a lot of institutions that are part of the LBMA. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing anything that is unbecoming. Could you tell us exactly what kind of gold a customer or a client of Glint would have with Brinks in Switzerland and how it works?
Yeah, sure. So listen, the gold that our clients are buying is physical allocated gold. And I think this is an area where you all need to work really hard to kind of raise awareness in this area, because there's a huge difference between the different types of gold that people are buying or that companies are selling. And I find it really frustrating, because, if in some instances, people are buying gold. I don't think it should be said that they are selling, the companies are selling them gold, because they're saying that in their terms and conditions, they don't have any legal title over it. Well, how can you be selling someone gold if you're not giving them the legal title? Surely you're not selling gold. They shouldn't be, the Advertising Watchdogs Commission should come down on them. You're not buying gold if you don't have legal title to it. In addition to that, there's something called unallocated gold, which means that, you have a claim on it, but the people that you've bought it off can use it how they want. They can lend it out. Well, that's as bad as having your money in a bank, because the bank can lend it out too. What happens if the bank goes bust? And there are a number of cryptocurrency backed and other gold payment systems which are using unallocated gold, and they hide behind the names of some quite big institutions. I mean, some very big institutions offer unallocated gold, and if you only want to expose yourself to the price of gold, then maybe there's a justification for doing that. But for me, it's kind of like an oxymoron. If you're buying gold, it needs to be real gold that you own, and that's what Glint gives you. Allocated gold, you own it. We can't do anything with it. Brinks can't do anything with it. It's sat in the vault there. It's yours. And if there's any kind of systemic risk in the financial system, if anything untoward happens in terms of any breakdown in that system, then you can be rest assured that actually that gold isn't being held inside a custodian that's part of that system. So the gold's not inside a bank, for instance, which is leveraged, and your gold is yours. So if Glint goes bust, or if the vault goes bust, nobody else has legally touched that gold. So I think that's really important. Please, if you're looking to buy gold, do check that you have legal title, and do check that it's not unallocated. It needs to be allocated, in my mind.
And also the gold that you own through Glint with Brinks is insured, right?
Yeah, it's insured by Lloyd's of London, so kind of double wrapper of security around that.
Could we change subjects now and talk about the crowdfunding and what it entails?
Yeah, sure. Listen, we've had some great investors in our business, and they include, for instance, the Tokyo Commodities Exchange, which is part of the Japanese stock exchange. Very privileged to have those guys as investors in the business. They see that Glint is going to grow the size of the gold market, and that's why they were so interested in what we were doing. Also, many of your listeners and viewers would have heard of Sprott. So Sprott Inc. invested in Glint. And it's fantastic as well to have such a great leader in the gold space backing the company. But we really enjoy getting feedback from our customers, and a lot of them were saying, can we own a bit of Glint as well, because we're not public at the moment. And so we decided that look, let's do the crowdfunding. It means that many of you who have the opportunity can invest in Glint and own a bit of the future of sound money as we try and bring it to the world, and give us the feedback about how you're using it, and help us in this. This is not just a product; it's a movement as much as anything else, and we want your help and we welcome it. Of course, we all hope that we'll make some money in this at some point as well, and increase the value of those shares over time. But of course, I do have to say that your capital is at risk. We're a private company. Things don't go always to plan. So please don't invest something that you can't afford to lose, because we're not that business. We're a business that's innovative, we think, creative. We're small but growing. We have big ambitions. So imagine the kind of things we could do together is the slogan we've got at the moment. And
on what platforms can viewers go and look into putting some money into Glint?
So there are two platforms. We're the first company in the world, we think, to have a dual listing, so to speak, a dual crowdfunding listing in both the UK and the USA. So in the USA, it's Republic, republic.co/Glint. And in the UK, or for the rest of the world, actually, because investors from many countries can invest through Seedrs. That's SEEDRS. Don't get caught out. It's SEEDRS. I think you'll have the link probably in the description, but Seedrs.com/Glint. And we're really pleased to be able to be issuing this. We're a global company. We're in lots of different countries. We didn't just want to be launching it in one. So we're really pleased to be the first to be able to do this in both America and in the UK at the same time.
Yeah, I saw that you can invest as little as £16.
Yeah,
as much as you want.
Yeah, there's a tiny amount in for those in the US. It's limited to what's called accredited investors, as defined by the SEC, and the minimum investment is $10,000. So I am sorry that we can't get any lower than that. Maybe if we do this ever again, then we'll see if we can find ways to make the minimum lot size in the US smaller. But we do welcome those people who have higher check sizes to invest in the company and be part of this movement in the US. In the for those other countries, though, people in those other countries, especially the UK and Europe, who are investing through seeders, yes, the minimum amount is just over £16. So it's just about available to everybody, which is really what I love about it. Glint is democratizing ownership of gold, and it's great to be able to project that democracy to the ownership of the company as well.
I had never been on Cedars, and I signed up yesterday, and it's really easy. If you're not like a high net worth investor, they make you go through like 7 questions, and they're quite straightforward. Questions like, are you aware that investing in a private company, you can lose all your money? And then you say yes. So it was quite an easy process. And I as I said earlier in the video, I did invest some money in Glint. And I'm not expecting it to any results in the next month or two. This is more like a long-term thing. Like Jason said, there is a risk of you losing your capital, so you should only put in how much you feel comfortable with, and that would not make a difference to you financially, I would say.
Yeah, and we're certainly not focused on any problems. We're focused on building this out, and I think with your help, then with all of your help, we can do this together. I mean, basically, we're building an army of advocates, of people who own a little bit of the business and can help raise awareness of that. We've got some exciting plans. What we're going to use the money for instance, a lot of it's going to be around building awareness around marketing and PR. There will be some key hires. We're looking to improve the functionality. We've got a continuously long list of stuff that we want to bring to the platform. I mean, some examples include, for instance, the ability to buy gold with Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, for instance, because we think there's a lot of people who've bought Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies might have made quite a lot of money in that kind of speculative rise, but which is very volatile, and might decide that they want to get into an alternative which is a bit more reliable. And of course, we want to be able to offer them that. We've got the idea of tiered subscriptions, and this is where you can have a different type of account with slightly different benefits. We're looking to introduce what we call pension wrappers, which for the US is a self-directed IRAs, and in the UK it's SIPs, self-investment pension plans, because we know that maybe 30% of all the gold that comes on our platform, people want to save for their pension, and they want to have the tax benefits around a pension. So we'll be bringing that in place. We want to improve peer-to-peer. At the moment, I can send gold using the Glint app to Mario, but what about somebody who hasn't got a Glint account? How do we do that? I want to do it all the time. I want to say to someone, hey, I'll just send you some gold, check it out for yourself. So we're going to enable that. They will still ultimately have to sign up, but the ability to just send that message, they receive it. Oh, wow, I've just received some gold, and to be able to claim that by going through a very simple 3-minute registration process. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We've got a solid gold debit card coming out. And actually, this is another way in which actually your viewers and listeners, Mario, can help. So we actually have a survey that we've done especially for your audience, Mario. And if we could put the link down below in the description, it's a very short survey. It won't take long, less than a minute for you to do. But we just want to know, look, what kind of functionality do you think we should be bringing to the Glint app? What do you think is the most important next step? I know that a lot of your listeners want us to introduce silver on. Every time I come on, there's some comments about adding silver. There's your chance to tell us how many of you want silver on there. I mean, by the way, I'll give you my rationale for not putting silver on at the moment, which is, we want to, in a world which is exceptionally confusing, I think it's really important for us at the moment to stay pure. We're a pure gold-based payments system. That's what we're known for. Obviously, we have the fiat currencies in there for choice, but in terms of what's our unique proposition, it's enabling gold to be used as money. That's what we're focusing on. That's where we're trying to innovate. And we think it's the ultimate form of money. Often silver was bought because you couldn't afford to buy gold. With Glint, you can buy as little as 1 cent's worth or 1 penny's worth of gold, as I said before. So there's no need for that at the moment. Yes, from an investment perspective, maybe, but we're not really in the business. It's not a trading app. Glint is enabling. It's like a kind of gold-based alternative to banking, payments, and money. We're reframing it to be, giving it that kind of life. So for the time being, I think we're very happy to focus on just gold. But please do give us your views. It won't take long. We'd love to hear back from you.
Well, that's great, Jason. It was really nice talking to you. And any final words to the viewers before we wrap up?
Some of you might be wondering what the exit strategy is for Glint as well, because you don't want your money wrapped up in a company forever. And I think there's probably 3 scenarios for Glint. Is that one, we go through the next funding round and next couple of funding rounds, and we attract bigger investors, venture capitalists, that type of thing. And they might want a bigger share of the company than we're willing to give them. We might be only issuing so many shares, and they might want to have a bigger percentage than that. In that case, there might be something called secondaries, where people want to buy your shares off you or a proportion of your shares. So I think there's a potential for liquidity there. In fact, on Cedars, they do have a secondary marketplace. There are some restrictions around it, but you can get a limited amount of liquidity with Cedars. It's not available at Republic in the US. So there could be that opportunity for liquidity. The second thing, of course, would be a private sale. So we don't have any intention on selling the business anytime soon, but there is a battle going on between the incumbent banks and the tech companies for a share of the client wallet. Yeah, they all want a piece of that. Apple's brought out a credit card. Google have just opened a banking license in Eastern Europe. Facebook want to bring out a cryptocurrency called Libra. Or the traditional banks, they all want a share of the client wallet, and yet most of their products are exactly the same. If you look at an account in Chase and you look at an account at a different bank, what's the big difference between them? Not a lot. And so Glint could be that kind of differentiating product that they wish to buy and bring into their stable. And so we could be a target for an acquisition that way. The other thing, of course, we could do is develop a public market strategy. And I think that once we get to scale up our revenues, I think that's a serious consideration around how we do that and whether or not we float as many of you would know it as an IPO or reverse. I think a public market strategy again is a very good way to raise money quickly and expand the business and give liquidity to our early investors. But again, it needs to be done at the right time and make sure we're doing it with the best interests of the shareholders in mind. And of course, what's the condition in the stock market at the time?
Very good, Jason. So I recommend all the viewers to look in the description for all the links associated with the crowdfunding and also the survey, the Glint survey. And I'd like to also say that I have a referral code. If you're looking to open a Glint account, it's Mario Glint 79. Thank you again, Jason, and I look forward to talking to you very soon.
Thank you, Mario, and thank you to everybody listening.